We are now live and everybody can be heard.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
she says optimistically. So, welcome to session 0.5 of Wildsea. We have done and dug into our psychological triggers and traumas last week. So this year, God, it's been a long day. This week, we are going to be creating our ship and hopefully our characters. And leading us by the hand, like the Pied Piper he isn't, is Fishy. And
hello.
playing with me are Moliere and Chrono Magistrate.
Hello.
Hello.
We will also hopefully in future have Alexia, who was here last week, but life. So this week we get Chrono. At some point
we
we'll get
hope
everyone together.
that Jasnets will be able
Yes.
to dip in from time to time.
And this isn't going to be a repeat of the AD&D second ed campaign where Alexia and another character swapped in and out.
Oh, God.
That was fun. That was an interesting mechanic.
Yeah,
I
I
quite
like
enjoyed
that.
as an idea. I think, to be honest, I think it would work better if both players were there all the time. Though,
Yes.
So you had input from both halves all the time.
Yes.
But it's an interesting way to run. Drutt and I actually did once play a character like that at a convention.
Yes.
Because they'd accidentally signed up one too many people for the game. It was a game of Discworld run by the author, not Pratchett, the guy who wrote the role playing game. And because they'd signed up one too many player, we said, well, okay, we'll just take one character between us. And we basically ran it as somebody with two people in their head.
Yep.
And kept arguing all the way through. It was fun.
Yes. It worked.
That sounds wonderful.
It did work. Right. So, Fish.
Yes.
The structure.
So, well, last time we covered the basics of what is Wildsea, and we had some talk about campaign themes, and then we went through the safety tools and the lights and veils. So this week we're going to get on to the meat of our player group and campaign. So starting with the ship, I think the ship is an important starting point. You can create the characters and then make a ship that fits those characters. But I personally feel that having the ship created first gives you some nice hooks to hang your characters on. So we're going to do the ship first. And there are a number of stages
sailor.
in the creation of a ship. Thank you.
I was just thinking in terms of, is that one of the sleeping area options? Everybody has a hook and you hang your colleagues on it.
Okay,
Could we place an Iron Maiden while this is occurring?
Not Dead by Daylight, please. Yes, Tilly, thank you.
Squelch.
Part of the way the ship design works in this game is by what they call stakes. Everybody has a number of stakes, and this comes down to there's a base number for the ship, which is on the page before the one that I'm currently looking at. That's typical of the way I work. There we go. Right, so there are 6 stakes on every ship, and then you get another 3 per sailor.
Okay.
So because we don't have all the sailors here, this is going to be a little bit interesting. Essentially, you've got 6 extra stakes. It's kind of like 12 plus 3 for each of you.
Okay.
Seems to be the logical way to do this, is just to transfer the Alexia and Jasnet's stakes, add them to the group thing, so you can spend them as a group. If there's anything that you particularly think Alexia or Jasnet's would want on the ship, then by all means, obviously say, "Oh, hang on, I think that would be a good thing," and take it out of those stakes. And then you have 3 each for your area of customization, for things you specifically want on the ship. This actually reminds me, in some respects, of Fragged Empire, which is another game that we played off stream relatively recently. I've seen only in photograph, but I've seen the books now. Actually, the preview copies of Fragged Empire 2 have reached the author now. So they're going to be delivering the print copies of that fairly soon. I wish I could have afforded to buy those.
Yeah.
I wish I had I'd got a print copy of this game, in fact, but my pre-order is still open.
Still.
Hopefully it will actually reach this country one day and I will get one. But I keep periodically searching. Yeah, see, they look like a lovely book. And you can buy them in America.
Oh.
But despite the fact that the author is a Brit, I've yet to find a copy for sale over here, only on pre-order. If I backed it on Kickstarter, I'd probably have a copy by now. I'm fairly certain they've gone out to Kickstarter backers, but I only backed it on PDF.
So what I'm saying is that Molly needs to buy a copy, then fly over here.
Well, Molly has already paid for my copy very generously because Molly is lovely. But I'm still waiting for it to be delivered.
It was selfishly motivated. I wanted the leader of our game to actually have a physical copy.
Yeah.
That's perfectly reasonable.
But I would say no to a trip.
Going back to the ship design, the basic things that every ship needs are it needs a size, it needs a frame, which is its basic profile and appearance. It needs a hull, so what material is it made of? It needs a bite, which is the mechanism that lets it cut through or otherwise traverse the tangled waves of the Wildsea. The most common method here is bleed red chainsaw at the front of the ship that both cuts a path and also drags you forward. And an engine, which is the motive force behind the ship's bite. There are some really weird options in this game for doing it. Now, for those who don't have the core rulebook, a lot of these rules are actually found in the free version that can be downloaded from itch. And those start on page
52.
100, apparently, for ships and shipbuilding.
Yep.
102 on the thing, 52 if you're using the PDF.
Because it's
2 pages to a,
2 page address, isn't it? Yeah, that's true. So yeah, page 102. And that first page at least is identical to the one in the core rulebook. So we will see. There may be some options missing, but for the most part, I think this is going to match mostly.
Okay.
Every ship has a set of ratings, which represent its condition and construction, and those will get points added to them as we go through and construct the ship. So first thing, let's have a think about the concept of our ship.
Okay.
What kind of a ship? What kind of a ship do we want it to be? Is it going to be something that has been custom made? Is this your brand new ship that you've had made to your specification? Is it an older ship that you've somehow come into possession of? So may have a few things that don't match what you might have wanted when setting out onto the waves.
Can we have a Frankenstein?
Yeah, you can have a Frankenstein. So basically the remains of 2 or more ships hacked together.
Yeah, I'm thinking
cut and shut.
Yeah.
That actually is exactly what we did in Fragged Empire. The cut and shut.
Yes, you're right.
It's one of the standard ship types for Calterans in Fragged Empire.
Sorry, I apologise for being a bit predictable there.
Sorry. Have a cut and shut here. In fact, in this game, you can have a literal Frankenstein. One of the engine options is, where is it? Just have a quick look. There is somewhere in here. We have things like pulsing cocoon. An unknown insect shifts inside, glutting on dreams and spinning them into an ebb of arcanautic force. Or there's Leviathan hearts. That's the one. I saw this on the actual play run by the designer. An actual Leviathan heart still beating reflexively, hooked up to the ship. So your ship can be powered by the heart of a Leviathan still functioning in the. So you can have a literal Frankenstein in theory.
I mean, I like that. I do like that concept. Like, nothing about this has dissuaded me that we are actually playing in a variant of Eberron, and I'm going to get to live out my House Loranda dreams.
I think there are some definite Eberron touches to this game, yeah.
But yes.
I'd love to do a Wood and Metal. Oh dear God, drop.
I mean,
Wood and metal is pretty much standard. Meat and metal, not so much.
mhm.
I didn't actually
Wood and metal
mean...
is pretty much standard for these ships. That's what you're likely to have. The hull material that we pick is going to be the primary material.
Right.
So, for example, if you chose as your hull, I just find the hull page. That's frame. So hull. There we go. If you chose as your hull broadwood, say, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be metal plates holding it together. Likewise, if you chose reef iron, which is metal plating taken from decommissioned ships or similar sources, that doesn't mean that there are no wooden elements to it. That's the main feature of your hull, however.
Okay. I apologise for the meat and metal thing. My head's been in cyberpunk red all day, all morning. And yeah,
I mean,
There
eminently
are worse
fair.
places to be.
yes, there are. Right. Are you tracking this for us, Fish, or does one of us need to do it?
I think I've got, hang on. Yes, I have got a copy of the fillable sheets open.
Okay.
So I
Cool.
will indeed start filling
I
in
think-
the ship sheet for you.
The
Doesn't
thing
mean
is-
that you can't fill it in on your own character sheets as we go. If you want to, you're quite welcome to do so.
Yeah.
Do we have a concept of like what our crew is? Like, what our like how we came together, or how we intend to come together, as it were?
At the
Because
moment, we do not. But that's the kind of thing that I think is very much worth thinking about.
Yeah.
And to me, the ship counts as part of that.
yes,
It's one thing to think about how the crew came together, but I think the ship has to count as a part of the crew for those
oh yeah,
purposes.
because that kind of that kind of influences and determines the kind of ship that we are going to have as
Yeah.
well. Like, is this a ship that like, if we are going for the kind of Frankenstein ship,
Mm.
did we come across it? Did we? Is it picked up us as a crew by dint of it being, it's
I'm going to make a
Frankensteinic
suggestion.
aura, as it were.
I am going to make a suggestion here based on something that I already know we're going to get to possibly when we get to character creation after this, which is that your idea that you wanted without looking up, Ironbound, I believe is the name, who are effectively they're sort of an automaton of some kind, animated by a spirit. And one of the common possibilities on that is that it is effectively the soul of a ship.
Yeah.
So it's
I was
entirely
wondering.
possible. What about the idea that maybe part of this Frankenstein ship could be Drut's character?
Yeah.
She's all that's left of the spiritual part of something that is now bolted onto another vessel.
I was wondering about either using that, or since I've got down in the back of my head that my personal goal is basically try and reassemble my fleet. I say the part I was bits of. I was just wondering whether our ship could be another member of the fleet.
Yeah.
Two bits of the fleet that have been bolted together, as it were.
That would work very nicely for purposes of one of the things that I have said that I want all of the players to do is to come up with at least one hook for the game. Now, Chrono has already provided me with a hook, but that doesn't mean that you can't provide another if you want to.
Yeah, I would think that hook is less for me personally, but I definitely have hooks for my character, for what I have in mind.
So, obviously, this search for your fleet obviously opens up hook possibilities, either something specific, as in a rumor of a vessel that might be part of your fleet, or a more general hook relating to the fate of that fleet and your desire to investigate it. So if this is just if this is all you have found so far, either this ship or part of this ship is all that you have found so far. That leads you into some hooks. Either related to this ship or related to another ship.
I was wondering if the say the wooden half, for example, or whichever would be more appropriate, could be basically the heavily wounded version of, all that is left. So it's basically recuperating and not necessarily fully sentient, but all but comatose.
Which aren't necessarily sentient. They can be, but they're not necessarily sentient. However, in your case, well, we haven't created your character yet, so we don't know for certain, but you may well be that you are effectively the awakened spirit of a ship.
Yeah, I mean, I just happen to quite like the idea of a dreaming ship. That's, it's semi-aware, but it's basically asleep.
I mean, I like that. I like that idea. It's certainly evocative.
Make that work.
I am straight away. I'm just adding that to the character sheet, the ship sheet, where it's way ahead of where we. Where we discuss it, but I'm writing it down now because later in the steps for ship design, we have motif, which is a fittings choice that affects your entire vessel using a motif that allows you to theme your ship towards a certain activity. Now, although that's, as described there, that's about sort of the way the ship is constructed, I have written asleep and dreaming into the motif box.
Yeah.
There's room for more. That doesn't have to be the whole motif.
Yeah.
But I've written that into the motif box on your ship as an aspect of its motif, that you are effectively guiding this sleeping ship as you go about your business.
Yes. It does also give us a hook for later on if it wakes up.
Yeah. And this is tying quite nicely to the way the themes came out. The highest point value, when I asked you to rank the themes that I came up with last week, the highest point value by 1 came in as the ties that bind. So I'm not going to have a discussion on that now, but I will ask you to think about and respond in Discord about how you want to bias that, whether you want to leave it fairly balanced or bias it towards internal ties, within the ship crew, or external ties as the ship, the ties of you and the ship to the rest of the world. And that is something that I'd like you to think about and respond on Discord about that. But the next one down, it was quite interesting the way it worked out, because Ties That Bind came in with 18 votes. And then there were 17 each for personal growth, uncovering the past, and exploration.
Okay.
Now, your desire to locate your fleet obviously is both exploration and uncovering the past, and the Ties That Bind. So 3 out of those 4 themes are straight in there.
Yeah.
With these concepts.
Plus
and
personal
just
growth
themes,
as you expand the fleet.
Looking at those themes, it does seem that exploration seems to be the most obvious purpose for the vessel and its crew. Whether that be finding new things or relocating old things, that does seem to be kind of the way that this crew looks like it's pitching itself at the moment.
I'm looking at the ship design section on page 104 on the concise rules.
Yes.
On the free rule.
On the free rules, yes. And I was just wondering how people felt about going for a large ship.
I was going to suggest large, but I wondered if folks were more comfortable with the standard.
For purposes of the tape, Your Honour, standard, comfortable for 5 to 10 people, but can hold double that number if necessary. The majority of ships out on the Wildsea are of standard size, hence the name. Now, if everybody plays, we've got 5 crew.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But I quite like...
I quite like also,
the knocking around with extra space.
And maybe a large ship gives you plenty of room for undercrew.
It also gives us the opportunity to really work with that whole cut and shut thing, because it's effectively two standard ships welded together.
Yeah.
And I had a quick look ahead.
Limo of ships.
Yeah. I had a quick look ahead. You can use spend stakes on multiple hulls, which would make sense on a larger ship rather than necessarily a standard sized one.
Plus, a large one, we don't necessarily, there may well be locked off rooms or shut off rooms that were, welded / glued / tied shut, to
behind a bulkhead that was necessary in order to put these two together, but there is still something potentially there.
Yeah. So we can have a touch of the Moya about this.
Oh wow! Okay, yes.
Yeah, I do like fast game.
I know. That's why I said it.
Yeah, I'm okay with spending a stake for large.
Yeah.
Well, the game mentioned the word Leviathan. I just
said it. Oh, is Tilly now happier?
Yes, she is. She was like, "Thank God you finally understood." Like, it's not even 4 o'clock yet. Because you've had your breakfast. Why are you wanting early bird dinner?
It's building up for a midnight snack later.
Probably.
A large ship is, I believe that was going to cost us 1 stake for a large ship. Interestingly, it's 1 stake whatever size.
Yeah.
The ship choice is very much, what do you want to do?
Plus 1 armor, -1 stealth. That also kind of appeals to me.
You're not going to be sneaky in this ship.
No. I don't think this is a sneaky crew particularly. Which I know is radical for us, but I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, I think if I go with almost any of the options that I expressed an interest in, none of them are my usual character.
Yeah.
He said, ish.
Yes.
So the next step after size then is your frame. Beneath the weapons, fittings, and hull plating of every ship is a solid frame, a superstructural skeleton built to withstand the constant jostling roughness of travel across a wavescape of chemically coated leaves and thick wooden branches. Your frame choice does determine attitude to some degree. So hidden by hull and accoutrements, your frame will influence how other sailors think of your vessel when it first begins. You can only pick 1 frame.
I feel that given of the ones what's presented on page 105, I feel given the discussions that we have had, kind of rules out sturdy, molded, and light.
Yes.
Yeah, I can say it's certainly not molded. Molded is way out.
Yes.
Light doesn't seem very likely either. Sturdy, I could see an argument in favour of sturdy on the basis that you could argue that when your cut and shut was put together, there was an awful lot of additional internal bracing added.
True.
To make it stay together. So you could go for sturdy on that basis, and that would, if you did that, obviously that would give you some feel for what the inside of the ship is going to be like. It'd be a little more cramped than you'd expect on a ship of that size.
I like siding.
You could do scything, I suppose.
Hang on a second.
I like the concept of scything, but I don't know if that's because in my head I'm picturing something like the scimitar from Star Trek Nemesis.
I'm just looking at this and wondering if catamarans are a thing.
Well, yes.
Are they?
That is an option.
I'm just wondering about dual scything.
Chrono mentioned earlier the idea of a multi-hull vessel, which was why I immediately thought not scything. But no, you could still do that, couldn't you? You could have multiple hulls that are designed that way.
Yeah. Yes.
making your ship almost work like a flechette mound, rather than one big thing trying to cut through. You've got lots of little ones that are easier to get through the wedge.
Should also
Maybe
help
even 3 or 4 hulls, depending on how you wanted to design it. Since
I mean,
it's a
yeah.
large ship.
Well, yeah, I kind of actually, yeah, I'm kind of picturing sort of like the main frame of the thing, kind of like held up onto like 2 Thor hulls that come out at like that angle, sort of thing.
Yeah, that would work.
And line here, so you've got the biting here, but we're held up a little bit above the canopy.
So we're back to Star Trek, but it's the Enterprise upside down.
Yeah.
The nacelles are at the bottom.
Yeah, like we
inverted. Yeah.
Look, this is just a variant of the STA game that I'm playing in. So.
True. Yeah, I'm half expecting now you ought to beam in. That'd be interesting. Should we, in that case, if we decide to go with 2 hulls for the frame, if we're going to go with double siding, it would make sense to pay for siding twice. I think 2 stakes rather than the 1 stake. Does that seem reasonable to people?
I think that seems reasonable. I know it doesn't. I know it's not necessarily what it says here, but I think that sounds reasonable.
I'm just looking to see if there is an additional cost elsewhere that would be instead of that.
All right. Okay.
Because you can have multiple hulls.
Yeah.
I mean, under common hulls, it does say you can have more than one.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because that's the material that it's made out of.
Yeah, I'm trying not to flick around in the PDF too much because I am displaying it on.
No, that's fair. I'm just.
I thought people might like
getting
to
a
actually
page
see
or so ahead. Yeah.
So I'm trying not to do that awful thing of flick back and forth, and need people going, "What?"
Slightly wondering about, and this is already starting to hack the game before we've even started.
Oh, there's a shock.
I never.
I mean, rules as written, we don't need to.
No.
But
if we did,
it's whether or not we, as effective, the kinds of players, stroke designers that we are.
Yeah, when you get multiple game designers playing a game, nothing's coming off unscathed.
I think I'm going to agree with this idea that maybe taking effectively, although you can only buy 1 frame, paying for it twice.
If it's source plus 2.
Works. And then that will give you the 2 points in source rather than just 1, and represent that this is a multi-hull.
Yeah.
So we have a scything frame times 2.
Yep.
So what this does mean that if you buy multiple hulls, multiple hull materials with the multiple hulls, you could, if you wanted to, actually specify that each one is a different part of the frame.
Interesting.
So you could literally have mismatched hulls if you wanted it.
I think from an aesthetic perspective, we would do that. Whether or not that comes into play mechanically
is another matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering about having it halfway across the spine, and so the ship was laterally. But yeah, it could well be that it was split up the middle.
The traditional automotive cut and shut is straight down the middle from side to side, isn't it?
Yeah.
The front of one car and the back of another.
But left and right of, say, something that had something drive straight through the middle.
Another option would be perhaps that your saw hulls, going back to what the idea that Chrono had of having 2 saw hulls with a primary hull mounted above them, your 2 saw hulls could be 2 identical or near identical smaller ships.
Yeah.
That could perhaps be the part that is from your fleet, Drutch. Maybe it's two not actually outriders, which means something different in this, but 2 of the escort vessels from your fleet, so smaller vessels from your fleet, that have been
co-opted,
hacked together and add to provide the motive force for a larger ship,
Yeah.
leaving us with, whether you add that hook or I add that hook, leaving us with the hook. Where did the shipbuilders get those two vessels?
Because that's somewhere I would quite like to find, on the grounds that you might find more. But yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Molly?
Yes.
You've got the most ridiculously cheerful grin. It's great. Sorry.
Sorry, I've been trying to mute until Tilly settles down.
That's okay.
And
Don't
she's
worry
doing
about it.
She's doing the unpredictable, and then 30 seconds later.
Molly, no stream ever suffered for the proof of access of a dog.
I mean, it's not as good as a cat, obviously.
No, obviously not.
Obviously not. No, but I am listening and I'm agreeing. And if I disagree with anything or have strong opinions, then you all know more about ships and boats and things than I do.
Well,
I
mean,
well,
technically we need Robinson here for.
Yeah, we need Robinson, ideally. Yeah.
Fraser has very rarely been on there.
Oh.
No, I love the lad dearly, but
yes, no, I know what you mean. Mind you, Fish did work in the Maritime Museum for extended periods of time.
I've forgotten almost everything that I learned there, but I did.
Hey, you used to give guided tours.
So, yeah, I did. I used to give guided tours of a steam tug that we had there as well.
Yes.
Kind of cool. So, bite. A ship's bite determines its motive force, how it cuts through or otherwise traverses.
We want to do hull first.
For us.
Have we not? Yes, true. Yes, hull. Sorry, because we were talking about the hull. I forgot we hadn't actually decided what they were made of yet.
Oh, good. When does the guy on the hull page say "Wake up, Dan"?
It is a bit, isn't it? Actually?
Very. Yeah. Turns his hat round.
Yeah. There we go.
I've got my DVDs back out of storage. I can watch Gun and Sword again. Excellent.
Damn it! I've got to find mine.
So you were saying metal and wood.
Yeah.
So that would kind of lead us towards, say, reef iron and broadwood as our two hull materials.
That's what I'm wondering about. That kind of works best for me. Unless somebody wants to go razor scale and wood.
I wasn't thinking razor scale. I was potentially going to suggest that instead of one of them, maybe going Leviathan bone.
That is a bit. Maybe we just figured out what cut the original ship up.
Well, you're allowed to pick multiple choices. Yeah. So you could, in fact, if you wanted to, go with reef iron and broadwood and specify maybe that's what your hulls primarily are made of. And then maybe take Leviathan bone.
A Leviathan
and say
bone keel would be
Leviathan bone has been used, is what's been used to patch them all together, patch it all together.
Yeah. A hull crafted from one or more pieces of Leviathan skeletons, solid if morbid.
So perhaps what you've got here is metal and wood bound to a skeletal, the frame being made of.
Instead of internal ribs, well, probably in addition to internal ribs, that you then have planking / plates attached to. On the outside as well, you have maybe the rib cage of a Leviathan with the spinal cord running down the length of the keel.
So kind of like it's the inverted rib cage, so that the keel of the primary hull,
the ribs attached to the secondary hull,
and it comes up like that. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
How does that grab people? So that's 3 stakes. I make that.
Solid, if a little more bit, sounds appropriate for this group.
So that gives.
And
us...
I think.
Sorry.
And I think if we're spending more stakes on the actual construction side, which potentially leaves us more bare bones on the fittings and such, that kind of makes sense. For this,
it kind of makes sense why we're rattling around inside such a big ship.
Yeah.
So Reef Iron Broadwood and Leviathan Bone.
So that's armor +1, seals +1, and tilt +1.
Arr, 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 arr. Sorry, no, wait, wrong seals. Yes, Tilly, I agree.
Sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Literally, don't worry about it.
I do worry about my neighbors, though. I mean, it's not quite ours, but still, I'm just like, I don't want to get complaints about dog barking.
Mate, if you haven't had complaints about dog barking every time anyone breathes within 10 miles of your front door, I think you're probably okay now.
I'm sorry. It's genetic for her. She's part poodle, part dachshund, and they're not subtle, laid-back dogs.
Oh my god! I
by
still
and
love
large.
that. Hang on, she's a Shih Tzu base, isn't she?
No,
Oh, is she
Wildsea
not?
was Shih Tzu.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
yeah,
Small
Tilly-
and
no,
fluffy,
that's a-
there's a limit to how
Yeah,
detailed I get.
Yeah. According to her genetic tests, Tilly is part poodle, part dachshund, part curly-coated retriever. So someone
I can
was either very uncomfortable or had access to a stepladder.
Stepladder is the
ancestry.
only thing I can think of. Yes.
Yeah. She's a one-off. She looks
Bless
vaguely
her.
terrier-like, but
Yeah.
with a dachshund back, and
Oh.
so yeah.
Right, that explains why she's a bit longer than she ought to be. Not ought to be,
Yes.
but
Then you'd expect
yeah.
for yeah.
Yeah, I always assumed there was Yorkshire Terrier kicking around in there, but okay, fair enough. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
She's got a very Yorkie look to her.
Yeah, she does, definitely. And about ankle height, so about Chihuahua height, but long.
Slip and trip. Excellent.
Yep.
Okay. Fish, have you got that down?
Okay, I've got that down. Yeah.
Cool.
So now we are on to
Fight.
the obvious thing is that your two saw hulls have a saw brow on them, but you do have a choice here. It doesn't have to be done that way. Other options we have got are impellers, large jet-like outboard engines that push the ship through the waves with brute force. Crawler, large finger-like mechanisms spread out around the front of the ship, allowing it to move through the waves with a crawling motion.
Ew.
That starts to get a little bit weird. I don't know that would match with what we've got, the design we've got at the moment.
Yeah,
Oh,
as I was reading through the freebie thing, it suddenly dawned on me that as an entomophobe, playing in a setting where insects and insect remnants and like byproducts make up a large quantity of the world environment. This might not have been
a big part of this environment.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me because we've basically got them veiled.
Yes.
And yet they're a major part of the world. So they're there, and they will be in the background at
I think
all times.
they're there. We don't have to dwell on them.
Yes. Yeah. And
the
brachiating motion can, or not quite brachiating, but you could almost go with an ape sort of structure, limb structure. That would.
I think that's marginally better, but that's still putting the wrong sort of pictures in my head.
If we do end up encountering navipedes, for example, which is the centipede limbs, obviously that would be in an enemy ship, and that's an extra reason to reduce it to its components atoms.
Bank very hard and consign it to the.
You'd either run away, or literally, you would just nope, that is wrong. That is now being removed from this world.
Yes,
I must admit that I'm just thinking in terms of the first expansion, which has finished its Kickstarter now, I believe, and it's being sort of worked up for delivery.
Yeah.
And that allows for what are essentially submersibles, vessels that go down into the trees rather than. And I just love the idea of one that is essentially in structure a sloth. hanging underneath the branches
Oh,
rather
yes,
than
I
going
like
on top of
that.
them. I just think that would be fascinating.
How would
Maybe that
people-
can feature once I've got the book delivered
How-
to me. That one I did book physically.
Pardon me.
Back physical because I wanted to actually get my book.
How would people feel about twin saw prows on the hulls, the twin hulls, with a long jaw on the primary?
Oh, so you're thinking of spending 4 states?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I like
the
that idea.
underslung.
Yeah.
I would probably, under those circumstances, specify that a lot of the time the long jaw is not going to function.
Yeah.
Because you're quite often going to be riding on the 2 saw hulls. But if you reach an area of that has less ability to support the vessel, so you kind of sink further down, or if the vessel is heavily loaded and thus sinks further down, that would bring the long jaw on the primary hull into play.
Or if we ended
and
up in
give you the
combat.
additional power that you needed.
If we ended up in combat, that gives us effectively ramming speed and an extra weapon.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Perhaps the ribs that are attaching the saw hulls have been modified in such a way that they are jointed and semi-retractable, so that the saw hulls can be brought up alongside the primary hull rather than beneath it.
Rather than having
So
it
you're
down, yes.
we're getting to hydrofoil
I
style
love that.
vessel now.
Yeah. Yes. So the long jaw is not necessarily down at all times because that's going to take energy, whatever fuels us, and we don't necessarily need the afterburner going at all times.
I also like that this kind of gives us this implies another hook. Because we have got a very interesting vessel that is probably unique. It also makes us a bit of a target.
It does. I have to briefly duck out. I will be back in 2 minutes. There's somebody at the door.
Oh, okay. Because the other one I had looked at or was vaguely thinking about was having the secondary hulls or the supporting hulls as voltaic runners. Because that would almost kind of make sense as well. But I think just having lots of saws is a nice visual.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, lots and lots of saws.
Yeah.
We are probably also not the quietest of ships.
Well, you've already got currently you've got -1 stealth because nothing has added to stealth at all. So
Yeah.
your stealth is a negative number right now. I need to check whether they in fact are supposed to start at 1, but nothing is adding to stealth and there's one thing taking away from it right now.
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of overwhelmed by how many interesting options there were. Like, well, I want that. So
this is one of the problems with a well-designed system like this: is you can never have everything you want on one ship.
Yes, I'm like, I like the idea of what is it? Phytophobic chemicals and riding on propelling yourself with that. That would be very cool. But all of the other things, and we're big. We're not stealthy. We are not super flexible. Chewing sound and chainsaw stuff sounds entirely appropriate.
I am going to quickly save this sheet because I don't want something horrible to happen to Acrobat and me to lose everything we've created so far. So
you have
a good idea to get that saved. The progress so far saved.
You're wise in the ways of Adobe.
I've had these things go wrong before.
Oh yes. Well, although I will say Acrobat is more stable than, say, FrameMaker, which is hideous. That's right.
So while we're waiting for Druck to come back, does anybody have any ideas as to what's actually powering all of this?
I'm having a look at the common engines. I'm not seeing Leviathan Heart there, so I'm guessing
Leviathan
that
Heart
is.
is in the unique engines box, which may not be in
Yes.
the freebie
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, and that's 2 stakes.
Yeah.
And that
as is the
makes
wonderful
sense.
idea of a rope golem.
Ooh.
Semi-sentient, massive animated ropes running through the rooms and corridors of the ship. It's just a fascinating idea.
I mean, so what's the what mechanically does the Leviathan Heart do?
Mechanically, it gives you
It pumps
additional
black
speed
fuel.
and tilt.
Speed and tilt. Okay.
Yeah, because it pumps viscous black fuel through pipes and valves around the ship to power everything. And it requires no fuel, but in a particularly ominous way. I love that phrasing there.
Hello.
Yes. Welcome
I'm back. Sorry, there was a
Welcome
courier.
back.
He went to the wrong block. I just had to tell him why.
I kind of like the idea that along with the Leviathan rib bones, they also salvaged the heart and put this on this vessel.
Is that under engine? Is that?
It's under unique engines.
It's not in the free.
Right. Okay.
But it's +1 tilt and +1 speed apparently.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading the sidebar, which I feel it's not particularly legible on screen, possibly. Axel had seen the guts of a lot of ships in his day, some neatly organised, some on the chaotic side, some a confusion of piping and valves and interchanges that would have taken an amateur weeks to untangle. But the Salavida's engine room was something else. It's bees. It's all bees.
Yes. Hi.
Not quite. The Salavida's rattle hand reached out to smudge at the drop of honey with the end of their spore scarf. There were the flower vats, the mellifluous exchange relays, the Queen's Den, honeycomb frames. He caught the sceptical look. Yeah, it's pretty much bees all the way down.
I mean,
Honey hive, bee +1, seals +1, fueled with stolen flowers and unprocessed pollen. Crew can use a task while at sea to gain a resource. Fresh engine honey once per journey.
I mean, you're basically saying that this is biofuel, just with a lot of emphasis on the bio. But no, please no.
At least bees, at least I know from an entomophobic point of view, not great, but at least they're better than most insects. At least they're useful.
I mean, true. I would still hold up a hand and say no, thank you.
Understandable. For someone who's a wasp's nest.
So, before you came back, the suggestion was made that the Leviathan heart had been salvaged along with the bones that were used in other parts of the hull. Thing.
Yeah, it would be a bit unlikely for it to be a different Leviathan, and that would just be gross.
It's more like it's from the same Leviathan.
That mean we can keep the sinews running through.
Like, I like that idea because I'm looking at the common engines and I don't feel that any of them are quite what we are looking for on this.
Parasite picture.
That was about the only one.
Yeah.
Now, you can have more than one engine, so you could pick a secondary engine. You could have a backup engine if you wanted to, or just something to provide additional power. But I will tell you now, we are into personal stakes.
Okay.
By this point.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
With that. Says the person who's just casually spending. How many stakes?
You had six stakes between you.
Right.
And then 3 per sailor. Right. You've spent your 6. And you've spent Alexia's and Jazz's. You've spent 12 of our stakes. So we're now on to your personal stakes. Okay. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that you stop making joint decisions at this point. You can continue to make joint decisions as we are doing now. But it does mean that because you're on your personal states now, if there's something that you really want and the others are saying, no, I don't like that idea, you can theoretically override it. You say, well, it's my steak and I'm spending it.
It's my steak and I'll scream if I want to.
So
Personally,
just have a
I'm
quick
happy
look.
with the one engine. How many
what does
steaks
the
does that
Leviathan-
work out to?
Give us.
So if we go with the Leviathan heart, that's 2 steaks.
I was gonna ask because I'm sticking with the freebie version of the rules open.
Yeah. I probably will pick up the main book at some point.
Ditto. I just thought that if potentially this is going to be the version that most players are going to be starting with. Plus, it means that it doesn't have all the extraneous stuff of the main rulebook to wade through. Although it is
They've done a
huge
nice
book.
job with the free one. It is a playable game. There's everything in there that you need to be able to play Wildsea, which I think is nice. There are additional options if you pick up the main rulebook, and also that obviously is throwing money towards the designer and the publishers, making it more likely that we will see further supplements.
Oh yeah.
Both the original book and also I believe it's called Storm and Root supplement, successfully funded on Kickstarter. And so long as they keep getting the attention and keep getting successful Kickstarters, I think we will continue to see more coming out for it. Storm and Root covers both submersibles and airships.
Oh, genuine
So
flight.
the rules are coming for flying above the trees as well as sailing along the top of them, which is cool.
The only other engine type I was wondering about was we would need to reskin, because the concept is interesting, but obviously we'd want to reskin it so it wasn't an insect, which is the pulsing cocoon.
Pulsing cocoon, yeah.
Because whatever's in there is staying in there, so it could be theoretically almost anything.
But yeah, I mean that could easily be reskinned. This is a game that encourages reskins, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, on that basis, then, given that one of the things it says is fueled with the dreams of the crew,
could that be a baby Leviathan? We don't know how long they stay babies.
Well, I was thinking more to tie it into the Lambert, it's a Lambert spirit of the ship, which ties it back into your Ironbound theme.
Actually, if we go with, go with me on this. If we go
checking my numbers when you discuss this, so if I don't respond,
we went with
something,
the spirit of the ship is effectively still asleep and dreaming. Would that count towards fueling, say, a pulsing cocoon? And could we make a pulsing cocoon effectively, as I say, like a Leviathan egg? If they are...
Oh, so combine the two ideas, as it were.
Yeah, if they're long-term creatures, we're talking, they might be decades or centuries in an egg developing, and in no danger of hatching anytime soon. And they wouldn't therefore be no insectoid needed. I'm just wondering about, basically, the embryonic Leviathan. We don't know what they look like. No one's going to cut it open and find out.
Because it's effectively just a tough leathery sack that looks almost like a heart, but isn't, as it were.
And it's feeding off both the dreams of the crew and the dreams of the ship.
Well, that sounds cozy.
Yeah.
Nothing could go wrong with that.
Nothing could go wrong there.
So this is so that means we've got literal nightmare fuel.
We have literal nightmare fuel. Also, presumably, the egg was all that was left of inside the body of inside the skeletal remains of the Leviathan that was salvaged to reinforce our hull.
Oh my god.
So
I like that adaptive pulsing cocoon idea. Yes.
I'm just wondering about that. How would people feel about that? Which would be one stake as opposed to the two stakes of.
I was going to say, so that would be instead of the Leviathan half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would that be Okay, how certain would we be that there's a long gestation period? Is that
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
okay?
Yeah.
We have been assured.
Yes.
By people who also don't really know.
Okay.
Yep.
So
All the stories say, but then this is also, we have come across this very weird, unique ship.
Yeah.
So are we now adding the unsettling question when we get to that point? What is the gestation period for a Leviathan egg?
Exactly. Yes.
I'm European or North African.
Yeah, thank you. I was exactly there. We so need a Monty Python counter.
Nobody say you don't know, or you'll get thrown straight off the deck of the ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. For some reason, this is now going into what was it? And the earth magically became fertile. The mountain magically became fertile and gave birth to an egg.
Monkey!
Over the centuries, the rain and the storms worked upon the egg until it hatched.
Yeah,
Sorry, I take it you're not familiar with Monkey.
No.
Oh.
It's an interesting adaptation of Journey to the West.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is probably the most adapted story or book in the world.
It's got to be up there, doesn't it?
Yeah. But because most of the adaptations happen in the, in Japan, China, Korea, etc., a lot of them don't come over to the Western world.
This was 1978, I want to say.
I think Monkey is probably the first adaptation that did make it over here.
Quite possibly, yeah.
It was, yes.
Of course, the best known adaptation is Dragon Ball.
Yes, true. But yeah,
Even though it's the least recognisable one.
Yeah. But yes, that's the one where you had everybody knows the dubbed version if they're of a certain age. Just Monkey doing the "So you want to have a fight, do you?" before beating the living daylights out of everybody with a large stick.
Yep. The extendable bow that Monkey had.
Yes. Goes from matchstick.
The person on a floating cloud.
Oh God, yes. The very confusing Buddhist monk, who I was so relieved when I found out was played by a woman, because it really confused me because they went with the whole Bishonen thing, and in order to get somebody Bishonen, because presumably K-pop stars had not been invented at that point, I don't know. I know maybe men hadn't got their moisturising together. They went with oh God, what's his name? What's the monk's name?
I cannot remember that.
Tripitaka.
Yes.
Yes. Played by a woman who was willing to shave her head. As a fella. And that was interesting. That worked really, really well. Tripitaka was wonderful. Never entirely sure about the prayer that let him torture Monkey, though.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you will do what I say for the good.
A mantra. That wasn't the mantra put it in. It was the mantra activated the headband that he wore.
Yeah.
It was a magic item.
Yeah. Because Monkey's chaotic. He's chaotic.
So. He is the Monkey King.
He is the Monkey King, yeah.
An extremely well-known trickster god from that side of the world.
Yeah. And now I need to watch the Jackie Chan Jet Li adaptation that was 5-10 years ago. Forbidden Kingdom, which I hadn't realised when I started watching it was also an adaptation, loose adaptation.
I have that on DVD, and I think they also have it on one of the streaming services.
There's also a post-apocalyptic video game that came out about 5-6 years ago now, which has Andy Serkis as Monkey.
Oh my God.
And actually has, as you venture further into the game or get towards endgame, actually has Andy Serkis in doing like video from the pre-apocalyptic time, and it's all it gets philosophically confusing. It's a very interesting game, but it's your basic kind of like survival platformer, and it's actually quite interesting. But yes,
having swapped to a Leviathan egg, which is a reskinned pulsating cocoon.
Yeah.
We've dropped from 12 down to 11 stakes used.
Okay.
Now, so that has become slightly cheaper. Did you want to reserve that stake for add-ons, or did you want a secondary engine in case something goes wrong with the egg?
I kind of like leaving it as one.
Just having faith in the egg not to abandon you.
Yeah.
If the egg wakes up, I think it's abandoning us is going to be the least of our problems.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes, that will be interesting when and if it does.
Oh my God!
Yes.
Whoever ends up as chief engineer, what's your job for every lunchtime? Oh, lullabies.
Oh yes, I love it.
Yeah, I'm not planning on playing the engineer.
It's the invisible tiger syndrome. I don't know that this stone keeps my house safe from the invisible tigers in my back garden, but you know what? I'm not throwing it out either.
Why are you wearing all that garlic? Because of the vampires. There are no vampires. Well, of course not. I'm wearing garlic.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I've been told that sometimes U.S. high schools will do parenting classes where they give the students an egg that they have
this on TV. Yeah.
And so I cannot vouch for that personally, but I think that would be basically
bags of flour are very common.
I've heard of that as well. Do not drop them.
And in the UK, it can be done. It has been done with bags of flour, but also it's been done with dolls with motion sensors, with the G sensor from mobile phones. So basically, they've got drop sensors, and there you can tell whether you just sort of throw them, drop them.
No.
And they will. Some of them do cry. So if you chuck it in your backpack, upside down for an extended period of time, your bag will start crying at you. Which, is fair enough, because let's face it, you chuck a baby in your backpack upside down for any length of time, but the odds are pretty good.
Yes. See, this is why dogs are so much easier than
I'm sure if you chucked a dog in your backpack upside down, it would do much the same thing.
Yeah, with the added bonus of needing to clean your backpack afterwards.
I mean, Tilly would sort herself out and then basically just be like, "Oh, you're carrying me. I'm up high now. I can stand above everyone now."
I've just got visions of Tilly in a frame backpack. Have you seen those platforms for the baby backpack things that everyone was saying? No, this is a weapons platform for a halfling.
Yeah, the halfling weapons platform for an orc or a half ogre.
Yes, which are basically the baby ride-on backpacks. You strap them into a frame pack. They stand up and their hands go over your shoulders.
They do make backpacks to carry dogs that are.
I just got visions of
the people who make those have all seen Beyond Thunderdome.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God.
Who hasn't? Okay.
Right.
Fittings.
Sorry.
Fittings.
So, fittings. Yes, the first thing under fittings is motif. Now, I'm trying to decide whether we can expand this dreaming vessel into a full-on motif or not.
Because the freebie gives us 4 options. I don't know if the core book gives us more.
The core book does indeed give us more options. The two most the two that leap out to me based on the decisions you've made so far and the way the ship has been described so far are the pathfinding or research motif.
Both of which are not in the freebie.
Yeah.
So could you describe those for us?
I can. Pathfinding ships are built with tenacious exploration in mind and will likely have trinkets and gewgaws from various contacted cultures affixed to the hull, a reinforced engine room with a secondary set of seals or bulkheads protecting it, an array of wilds clearing tools allowing crew fighting on or below decks easy access to hewing or serrated damage. The research motif, the mysteries of the rustling waves are an egg waiting to hatch, possibly beneath your decks. And a research vessel is just the right sort of tool to crack them right open.
That's
Research ships
literally what
will
it's
likely
called.
have
Yeah.
a higher level of general technology on show than average, a library for recording new findings and delving into secrets and lore, a snapograph arrangement, a complex deck-mounted photography system for catching images of the waves and printing them on light-sensitive paper.
I do like the library, and yes, it does literally say an egg waiting to hatch.
Yes, it does say that.
I
It doesn't
wonder-
say the bit about possibly beneath your deck.
I wonder if that's almost a little bit too on the nose, because
Yeah.
this doesn't. I don't know. Like, a research vessel is not what I picture
No.
when I see this
Exploration
shit.
is more,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
my gig.
Yeah.
You could twist your hook, Drat, towards researching the fate of your fleet, but it more obviously runs to exploration and searching for it,
Yeah.
which is where pathfinding obviously
See, so the character I have in
or
mind.
salvaging for
Yeah, I was just thinking.
hauling it
that.
back again when you find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so of the available motifs in the freebie, salvaging was the one I most like the look of. But I think explorer makes more sense.
I think it would fit better for what we've got so far. Though salvaging would be my second choice. But I like the exploration.
Yeah.
I can understand you not wanting a library, but
Oh yeah, like it kind of also would tie in with the character concept I have in my mind, but it's not a be all and end all sort of thing.
we could go with map making as part of our raison d'etre.
Yeah.
As an explorer. Well, as an explorer.
Yeah.
So exploration then.
So pathfinding.
So yeah,
Pathfinding.
My apologies.
That will cost us 2 stakes.
Yep.
I think are they all 2 stakes?
They
I
are
think
all
so.
2 stakes.
Yeah.
The stock 2 stakes gets you a motif. You don't have to have a motif. If you don't have a motif, then you lose out on certain benefits. The primary thing, the primary benefit that it gives you, other than anything specific that is listed, is the rustling up resources benefit, which is that while you're out at sea, if you need a thing, you can root through the cupboards and lockers and so forth around the ship and find something suitable. And what is suitable depends on your motif. So in the case of a pathfinding vessel, you might be able to find things like extra rope, long distance, telescopes, things suitable for pathfinding, map paper.
Right. Okay.
So how many stakes does that leave us with?
That was my next question.
We've spent 13 out of 21.
Oh,
So that
actually,
leaves you 8, by my reckoning.
yeah, that could
By
be
my
worse.
maths. Stakes left. Effectively, one of you has spent a stake, and otherwise you've got your personal stakes still to go.
Okay.
So what we're now on to, we're into additions, rooms, armaments, and outriders. So
Right.
I'm just going to jump ahead very quickly to outriders because it seems quite appropriate to this ship.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mention outriders. These are single-seater craft made for cutting across the waves for short distances, usually deployed from a larger ship or mid-world's watchtower. They've limited range and don't offer much in the way of protection, but they're perfect for certain specialist tasks and niche activities depending on their construction. You've already got a multi-hull ship, so adding what are effectively jet skis, one or more, to the ship kind of works with this design. So I thought I'd skip ahead and mention that now.
They're not in
case you...
the freebie version.
They're
Yeah.
probably not in the freebie.
Oh,
How much do they
Okay.
cost?
1 to 2
Okay.
steaks generally.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, workhorse is 1 steak, a basic thing.
Mhm.
Upgrades are 2 steaks, and
What we have a chassis and
Mhm.
fittings.
oh
So
yes,
if, for
Ew.
example, if you wanted an outrider that's absolutely in keeping with the design of the ship completely, you would go with chopper. Brutish and noisy, choppers are designed to cut their way through the toughest Wildsea vegetation effectively, yet more chainsaws, but these ones
Mhm.
cut loose from the vessel and go off and do their own thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you've also got the workhorse, which is just a sort of a generic model that gains 2 outrider fitting choices for free. So the workhorse gives you a little bit of customization without spending anything additional, and is only 1 steak. The skipper is sleek and compact, made for speed and stealth. That's 2 steaks, and doesn't fit with this ship.
No.
But at the same time, does fit with this ship because it doesn't. Because the ship is so big and clunky. The idea of
Yeah.
having an outrider that is sneaky, that you can go off into those areas, would make sense.
Yes.
The chopper we've already described. A sidewinder is mobile and resilient, but lacking in speed.
It sounds about right.
Then there are fittings that cost additional stakes that can be added on top of that. Wind glass, which effectively gives you some an actual bubble to protect you rather than just being open to the wind and waves. Overburner for adding extra power to the engines. Mucoid rub, a slimy adhesive coating along the lower hull, muffling engine noise and allowing the ship to better handle sharp turns. Or personal modifications, which is a bit of a catch-all and lets you decrease 1 of its ratings but increase 3 of its ratings.
I think mucoid
There's also a
rub,
weapon
you've just-
housing, a duck-style flatbed, camouflage. So that's
disgusting.
those are options for building an outrider. So I thought I would mention the outriders first, because if you want an outrider, then you're going to need to make sure you've got
Should we keep
stakes for it, either
should
by
we keep
building it
3
now or
stakes free, if possible?
Okay.
And then if we want to do something, did you say a workhorse was 2 stakes, Fish?
a
Workhorse
workhorse is
is
only 1 stake.
1.
You can get a basic. You can get a pretty good one for 1 stake, because you get the ratings on an outrider aren't brilliant,
Yeah.
but it comes with 2 free fitting choices. So you could, for example, have a flatbed and personal modification to let you tweak the ratings and have cargo capacity, or the capacity to carry additional crew on the flatbed. You could have a small pickup for all intents and purposes that carry another crew member on the back of.
Right.
That would still come under the 1 stake for a workhorse. But you could even have a couple of them on the ship if you really wanted.
Okay,
Don't call them shuttles,
let's
because we're getting 2 such Star Trek already.
let's try and keep say 2 stakes free,
Okay.
and then we can decide what we want to do with them.
Sure.
Okay.
Instead of having to try and re-engineer things later.
Yeah. Okay.
So we consider we've got 6 left to play with, yeah?
We've got 8 left to play with at the moment, or 6 left to play with if you're
Yes.
saving 2 for
Yeah.
the thing. But yes, yeah. Now, one of them I'm going to spend now because we already know that Chrono wants it. The personal room thing is largely going to come under luxury quarters.
Okay.
That's pretty much going to be what.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah. So that's individual spaces for each crew member.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's what you've already said that you want. So I will spend that point now
Sure.
and have luxury quarters.
Can
How
we-
luxurious they actually are
Yeah.
is another matter, but that's what they come under. In the game.
Can I suggest a navigational suite?
Yes. That was another one I was going to suggest.
That would seem to make sense
Yeah.
for a Pathfinder vessel.
We've got by default a pilot's cabin, a main deck, crew quarters, an engine room, and a cargo bay.
hmm
So Moliere, anything leaping out at you?
This is more of a frippery, but also could be useful. I rather like the firefly lanterns.
Network of lanterns, their glowing inhabitants woken or sent to sleep with a tap on the glass, ready to illuminate any part of the ship. Clap on.
Could be useful.
Clap off.
Yeah, I mean, that's when it comes. If there are other things that are more important than that, I just find that very appealing.
Yeah.
And
I think firefly lanterns are a great idea. If
Yeah.
only
They're an
because,
excellent idea.
as part of the setting, you shouldn't be using fire,
Yeah.
and you do need to see. So,
Yeah.
firefly lanterns are almost an essential on any ship, really.
So that's 3.
The other benefit of them is that they can be used as a makeshift signaling system.
Yes,
Yeah.
true.
true. Yes.
I was wondering about a cargo crane, but I'm not married to it.
I was thinking it might be useful if we had a cargo crane or a wrecker's magnet.
That's where I am with this. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
I feel one of those two is going to be useful.
Yeah.
Probably more the wrecker's magnet.
Yeah, we can take things in tow if need
Yeah.
be.
The Wrecker's Magnet fits quite nicely with the engine
Yeah.
that you've got, because your Leviathan egg is generating arcanautic energy. Effectively, you have a ship that is powered by magic. The word magic is not used in this
Yeah.
game. It's
Mhm.
arcanautics, but it is an arcane energy source. So that works. It's easily converted to magnetism, rather than needing to argue why is it that your steam engine can generate a magnetic force.
Mhm.
Fair enough. So Vecca's magnet then. So I
Yeah.
make that we've spent 4. What's on the next page?
So armaments.
Yeah, I
Yes.
feel that we ought to get a gun.
Well,
Yes.
you have got an extremely dangerous vessel already,
Yeah,
but
that's
you
true.
don't have any actual weapons.
I feel that because this is a cutting edge technology thing, it would have additional weapons. I'm going to suggest
Carry on.
the storm rail.
Two huge brass pods wrapped with poorly shielded cables attached to a voltaic generator.
Oh god. Okay. This is fine.
Feels massive. LR, I believe,
Because
is
we already
range.
do a lot of serrated damage if we are going for.
Yeah, you can ram things because you've got all the saws in the world on
Yeah.
this ship.
I like the concept of the storm rail, especially if I'm going to play a Tempest.
True.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
looking at winch claws, but I can get behind a storm rail instead.
The winch claws would be more appropriate if you'd gone for cargo rather than the wrecking magnet. But essentially, because you've got the wrecker's magnet, the storm rail and the wrecker's magnet can be considered almost a single device that you can operate it
Yeah.
in two ways. That arcanautic energy that is being converted into lightning, magnetism, and electricity can
Yeah.
either be channeled out to attack things via the storm rail or used as a tractor beam via the wrecker's magnet.
No, that works fine for
Thematically,
me.
that works quite nicely.
The only downside to this is, like, we have basically spent everything that means we don't really have any stakes left for an undercrew specifically. Which I don't necessarily think which we don't necessarily need to spend stakes on. Like, we will have a general crew that aren't necessarily specialized. Which, to be honest, for a starting adventure, I kind of like.
No.
Yeah. It gives you goals in game to be
Yeah.
firing under.
Or we convert the 2 stakes that we have set aside for the Outrider to cover a gang or something like that.
At the moment, we've spent. Hang on, there's 2 for the storm rail.
Okay.
If my
3
maths
for the 4. I make it. We've only spent 5, and we had 6.
Firefly lanterns, Wrecker's magnet, 2.
Luxury quarters.
Luxury quarters and navigational suites.
Oh,
is
navigational suite. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
So
We
you're
could.
up to the point now where you've got your 2 points left that were originally intended for.
How about?
an outrider.
How about we knock off one of the points and have a workhorse?
You can have a workhorse outrider and still have 1 point left over for something
Which
on
would
your.
which would give us enough points for maybe either a pack
Oh.
or an officer.
Oh, well, yeah, right, fine. Yes, sorry, I've just seen that. I haven't found the beast packs yet.
Okay. In
Sorry.
which case, yeah. So we take one for an outrider, and I guess one for the squirrels, because the squirrels are not in the freebie. So
Okay. Well, no, squirrel flingers are 2 stakes, and that's
right,
later.
okay.
But I will say I can wait for my my pack of vicious squirrels. Tiny but ferocious, a pack of squirrels armed with miniature slingers. They fight at range to defend the ship, gaining focus every now and then to deal LR blunt, keen, or spike damage.
Long range blunt, keen, and spike damage. That means.
Yes.
I mean,
anyone who has seen Beastmaster 2 is going to be drawn. To my mind, is going to be drawn to the rig ferrets.
Rig ferrets is where I was.
Try and untie knots far above deck on ships that evoke the feeling of the old salt scene, and you don't have sails.
We don't have rigging.
There's all kinds of other things you could use them for.
Yeah, rig ferrets was something I kind of like. Just whirling bats lend an appreciably gothic look to your ship from a distance, but are unexpectedly friendly up close.
I know we need a menagerie when we have some more points to spend on Trippies.
Okay, guys.
Or the octopus.
Guys. Do we want? Octopus is not in the basic rules. Go away.
Okay. A Geist octopus, 3 stakes.
Geist octopus, yes, that's 3 stakes for a Geist octopus. You need to sell something back to get one of those.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything in one cool Cephala package. Once per journey, the Geist octopus allows a single crew member to roll 66 in place of their usual dice pool on any task it can conceivably help with. Really good, but it is 3 stakes.
Yes.
Also, knowing us, given how risk averse we are to using resources, it never gets used.
We end up never using it.
I really am. I really kind of want rig ferrets. I know we don't have sailing vessel accoutrements, but I really want rig ferrets.
You could hold off and hope to add an outrider at a later date and have both rig ferrets and another pack, or rig ferrets and an officer.
See, I've got visions of rig ferrets and squirrels having a fight in the rigging.
Yes.
Can we hold a stake for later, or?
That is a very good question. I will be honest. I have not looked at the rules. I'm sure there are some for updating your ship after the fact. Let's see if I can locate said rules. Right, index. That'll be the place to look, won't it? That's always a good place for finding things.
Of course, rig ferrets would work for when you need to flick the connections over between storm rail and wrecker's magnet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they'd be running around unplugging things and plugging them in somewhere else.
In which case, I would say we burn our last 2 points, go with rig ferrets and rig ropes. Which is rope strung above the deck for various purposes, often climbed, used as safety lines or trips over the edge of the ship. Please don't say trip and edge of the ship. Or hung with drying washing.
I mean, I like that concept kind of more than having an outrider, to be honest.
I could live with getting an outrider later. If nothing else, maybe we could steal one.
Or salvage one. Or
salvage one
like
from someone we've killed.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. We're recycling. We're rehoming.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes, and I will I do want the squirrels at some point, but I will say I will wait for those because I want squirrels.
Understandable.
Or the lemurs.
It is very much. It's as I said before, the problem with a well-designed system like this is you can't have everything.
Yeah,
There's
well,
just too many. good
Give
stuff, too much good
everything.
stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm just thinking rig ropes would actually be very useful because we're more likely to be dropping down, maybe just below
Yeah.
the rooftops if we're likely to be exploring /
Also, it
salvaging
makes-
anything.
Also, it effectively means that we've got scramble nets between the primary hull and the
Yeah,
outriggers. Let's just call them outriggers
Yeah.
because
outriggers smallo
yeah, the secondary
or
hulls.
pontoons.
Yeah,
I've been
pontoons.
referring to them as saw hulls.
Yeah.
In the,
Yeah, saw hulls. Then yeah.
Okay.
So it means that we can easily get between the saw hulls
Yeah.
and the primary. Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me actually.
I'm sure that there are rules for character advancement in this game, but at the moment I can't find them. And that would seem to be the most logical place to look for.
But
Yeah,
yes, we do have to
adding
have
to the
slinger
ship after the
swirls at
fact.
some point. Moliere is
Yes.
absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But if we could start with rig ferrets and rig ropes.
I am fine with big ferrets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the order goes big ferrets, aggressive squirrels, and then lemurs.
You see, the rig ferrets are more kind of engineers.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then the aggressive squirrels, there are commandos.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the lemurs are basically the cheering squad.
Exactly.
Morale is important.
Oh God, we're going to run to session 0.75, aren't we? 'Cause it's pushing 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Dangerously going that way because we still haven't touched character creation.
But the ship, no, I am well happy with the ship.
Mhm.
The ship is coming out brilliantly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm glad we've
No
spent...
idea what on earth you're going to call it.
Lollipop? Sorry.
Carnadine Seeker.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Back to the editions. So it's one for that.
See, I keep wanting to go, not Farscape, but Andromeda for the naming strategies. Where they just give you a it's a bit like the culture stuff where they just put a sentence down and say, yeah, that's a ship name.
But it's a little bit like a somewhat sanitized culture.
Yes.
They're more sort of heroic type names in Andromeda, whereas in the culture they're quite often sarcastic or just outright insulting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of your Sidewinder, the staggering lack of subtlety.
The staggering lack of subtlety was named as in culture fashion, very much, yes.
Yeah.
And has too long a name to fit onto the nameplate in the game, so it's just called subtlety.
I want to go racing again at some point.
Yeah, I want to get back to playing.
Yeah, I do.
So.
Right.
Right.
So
So
are
at the
we
moment, you have
okay?
no specifically paid for human crew. You've got human crew, but you haven't paid for any that are specifically good for anything. But you
They're all
do
red
have
shirts. They've
all
got
of
no
these little
names.
ferrets running around.
Yes.
Do we prioritize the humans? No, at least the humanoid or humanish. No, we prioritize the small furry sausages.
I should probably put the
With
storm
teeth.
rail in the armaments box rather than the additions box, shouldn't I? Since
Yeah.
that's where it actually belongs. That would be good.
Ideally.
Okay, so that is
Let's make me
a ship. Yeah, that is a pretty cool ship.
Yes, we need a
Mhm.
name.
Yeah. And I
It's
think this
got
gives
no
us
stealth at all.
No.
I think this gives us a
Everyone can see it coming.
Sorry, Clement.
I think this
You were
gives us actually this does give us the way to drive our characters as to why we are here and
Yes.
things like that. So I think I have a better idea. I don't think this hasn't actually changed anything of what I had in mind for my character, which is a good thing to
That's always nice when that happens.
yeah.
But it's maybe solidified a few of the options within that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the only thing that I would have liked to add to this is it would have been nice to have a galley.
Mm.
It forward. Yeah, you've got a big ship, so there's plenty of room.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
But,
you've got
yeah.
to find out how you do it. You'll just have to add
Yeah,
a galley
we
later.
can. This
Yeah.
is it. We've got all this space that we can stick up dividers.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, we wouldn't even have
Yeah.
to knock through. We have to do the unknocking through.
Mhm.
And then you're into this GM
Yeah.
section.
Mhm.
I like this ship a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is a really cool ship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although I am thinking that, yeah, this might be the place to call it.
I think that's probably, yeah.
It makes
we,
sense.
we underestimated very much how long it was going to take us to do anything in this game.
Well,
we
It's
have-
just too interesting.
It is.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
because you start looking through again, even if you've already read it, then you start looking through with application in mind. You're like, ooh, but that,
Yeah.
no, and then you have to. Yeah.
I think the thing is, where we're also customizing, it's not just that you're picking options, you know.
Yeah.
It's
We're not
I'll
literally
have
just
option A, B, or
selecting a checkbox.
Yeah.
We are
It's how does this work with what we've already decided?
Yes, it's coherent, and you could make arguments in some cases for other things.
Oh yeah.
But I think the way that we've gone,
well,
you know,
we're world building,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
you know, the way this system and
Yeah.
such seems to operate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
very much pushed towards world building. It's not a game where the world is there for you to find, or that the GM makes a world for you to find. It is a game where the world is built as you go, and the character creation process is a part of that.
Yeah.
yes.
Is it just me, or are all the individual crew quarters going to be in concentric rings around the engine? Or the engine
Oh,
room?
definitely.
If that's
Oh,
fueled by
definitely.
dreams, you want to keep people in as close proximity as possible.
Yes,
So you're
that's
going
a
to have
good point.
rings
Yeah.
of rooms.
Oh, and you know what? We are going to have to encounter some sort of enemy that causes insomnia or
Yeah.
lack of REM sleep.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so we are getting really Star Trek here. It's that Troy episode.
Yes.
Only good.
Yeah.
Troy, they really didn't know what to do with that.
No, they did not.
And I'm just thinking that, you know, I like the private rooms thing, but I do like the idea that basically everybody is contributing towards the fuel. This is the equivalent of us all having little bikes in our quarters where we're powering the batteries.
Oh,
Well, I
You
mean,
know.
because that kind of almost makes sense. Because so the way I'm kind of picturing it is that like towards the engine room is towards the bow of the ship. Bow is the rear, isn't it? Yeah, prow is front,
Stern.
bow stern. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like towards the stern where. Oh, actually, no. Hang on. Since we're molding this around the rib cage.
I was thinking central.
Yeah, central. And so you've got this kind of like the central engine room is almost spherical.
Yeah.
And then you've got like the two rings around the top, which are effectively where the crew quarters are.
Yeah.
But they can't see the egg that's directly underneath them.
Yeah.
But they are arranged in like the room is circular.
Yeah.
And also like the cargo.
Everywhere's sections of an arc.
Yeah. Because circles are communal, so all the crew, and then it's like, and it actually kind of like the ribs funnel things down towards the central engine room at the heart.
Yeah. And
oh god, we've just made this really creepy.
I don't know with it being creepy.
creepy.
I think it's kind of cool.
Not creepy at all.
We're feeding. We are feeding and nurturing the fetal form of a creature that, if it ever awakes and hatches, will reduce us to matchwood.
Well, we kind of owe it to them though, because presumably we or someone killed their incubator parent. Sort of.
Somebody did.
Yeah. So
Um,
Oh
Yeah.
no.
it is. Yeah. It behooves us to be nice to the
it could
creature.
be. It could well be that my fleet as was, because I can never remember Iron Bones or Iron Blood.
I'm bound.
Iron Bound. Sorry.
Mhm.
Can be old.
Yeah.
So I quite like the idea that
I wonder if you remember
back in
before
the
the
day,
verdancy,
yeah.
or somewhere in
Generally-
your ship or your memory spirit, you remember back before the verdancy.
I quite like.
Generally, the game doesn't allow a lot of
No.
memory before the verdancy. One of the bloodline options, or one of the origins rather, is people who were alive before the verdancy and now are effectively amnesiac.
I'm
But that
wondering-
doesn't mean you have odd sort of strange flashes of memory or dreams that you can't explain. That
Yes.
kind of stuff.
I quite
Yeah.
like the idea of my memories, such as they are, start in the fight that either
That
was
broke
against
up
the
the ship,
Leviathan or
yeah.
that broke up the ship and dealt, or why we had the Leviathan egg in the first place. Did we find a skeleton? Did we find a dying Leviathan? Were we fighting over a dying Leviathan?
Welcome to the ship Jormungandr.
But I quite like the idea of the first thing I remember being waking up and having to have a fight, with no real knowledge of why I was having a fight. But that would have been when he or she was probably she, because I tend to play she's, was a ship, or or was part of a ship.
I kind of like the idea that maybe you have.
Oh God, you okay?
Yeah, no, I bashed my cup, but fortunately there was nothing in it. I just panicked for a second because I forgot I'd drunk it all. I like the idea that you have perhaps memories from when you were a ship, but when you were a ship, both your senses and your mind were so different that you can't actually interpret the memories that you've got.
Yeah.
They're too strange to you.
Yeah. But this does, of
I
course,
like that.
lets you drop potential plot points on my head if things happen to match up with things that the ship may have encountered at some point in the previous. So that's always fun. Always leave the GM room to torture you.
So looking at the rewards system, the rewards section, we have milestones. So this is a game that uses milestones rather than something like an XP system.
Right.
Minor milestones are used to increase skill and language ranks and to improve or personalize aspects. They work well as a reward for overcoming an important challenge or surviving a tough fight. Major milestones are better used to add new aspects entirely or to combine existing aspects, creating a unique aspect with a much longer track. Major milestones should be given out as rewards sparingly, only after completing an important story arc or barely surviving an extremely tough encounter. I would personally interpret that major milestones would be what you're looking at for modifying the ship, for adding things to the ship. Probably requiring that you would have gained appropriate resources as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
You've been something that you've worked towards, but it will be done there's no mechanical system necessarily for it, so it will be done in a narrative sense instead.
It's basically, this is our adventure to do this, basically.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
We've got the huge hole. We've done a certain amount of work so far.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we need to carry on with it.
I know it's optimistic, but I really want to see fan art of this ship. I want to know what people think it looks like.
Yes. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I could draw the individual elements, but I'm not quite sure how they're bound together so far.
But I will create a an infographic similar to the one I've done for Lines and Veils that obviously will not have a picture of the ship, but will contain all the information, the relevant information from the ship sheet in as
fabulous.
compact a form as I can make it. So that can go into things like to appearing during AFK.
We can think of we can think of a
and
name
will be
between
available
now.
within the fantasy ground.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I keep thinking Pirates of Darksea for the overall look of this.
Oh,
Yes, I can see it actually. Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Pirates of Darkwater.
Pirates of Darkwater. Sorry,
Yeah.
not Pirates of Darksea.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
I knew what you meant.
Oh, I created a very brief-lived alternity game based around that.
I'm always relieved when I find somebody who knows it was real, rather than just looking at me like it was a dream I had when I had
a little
flu.
obscure, that one. I only know about it because you introduced me to it.
It feels like it could have been because it was only something like 11 episodes before the series got cancelled.
Yeah, I've got the DVD kicking around somewhere.
Oh wow! I really wanted that show to
have it on VHS.
Oh, I may have it.
I think you had it on VHS. I don't think it ever got a DVD release.
But yeah, it was wild. Literally, it was all over the place. And that was a kids show.
Even though it was, it was being billed as, your generic hunt down treasures. We've got to find MacGuffins. Show. And I wanted to see where that went.
Yes, and it was dark.
Yeah, it really was.
Very much so. So no, that on the ship appearances, on the more organic end of things, that's where my head's going for that sort of look.
Interesting.
An awful lot of extra sharp edges, and especially with the chainsaws and stuff, that just ties up so well with that huge enemy ship. The villain's pirate rig, the one that opened up.
Yes.
Star Destroyer style. It just swallowed things. Okay, so fish.
So draft.
Right.
I think we're finished with.
We are finished with this.
We're not going to be doing any
what
more
would
on this.
people like to do as regards another session? Do we want to create this on? I would like to do this on stream for character creation.
I think so. Yeah.
I think character creation would make for a good stream if we can do it that way. Yeah.
Not necessarily wedded to doing it next week, however, if people can't make it.
Okay. I can at the moment. I can.
Yeah, I am aware. I am thinking in terms
bring
of
up
our shifts
now
changing.
this idea that at some point, courtesy of changes in my work, this will need to move to a different slot, and that will almost certainly involve it moving over to the Hint Place tabletop channel.
I am more available next Thursday than I am the Thursday after.
Okay. Moliere, how are you set for next Thursday?
Next Thursday, I should be able to time shift some work as well. Yes.
If that's okay, then we can carry on, and we will finish off our crew next Thursday then.
So that's my job.
As it were. Yes. I have some ideas. Yes. I have some ideas about the posts that I want, but I'm still overwhelmed with the bloodlines and the origins.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure. I think I'm down to one of two bloodlines. I either want to be an Ardent or a Chiron. And Ardents are in the freebie, Chiron aren't. Origin is going to be Shankling. And I've got one of 4 roles, one of which is in the freebie, the other 3 aren't, which I would like to have a look at. But I think I am verging towards Tempest as my role.
Okay. How does the Shanklin actually move in that skirt? Seriously, how does she even walk?
Brachiation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just trying to find the Ironbound. who are not in the basic rules.
No, they are not in.
They are not in
That's
the
why I
basic
shall
rules.
stop looking then.
So,
Yeah.
obviously, I can provide.
Yeah.
If you know you want an Ironbound, then what I will do is I will provide you with the information about Ironbound
That's
on
fair.
the
Thank you.
Discord,
Yeah.
so that you have access to that during the character
Thank you
creation.
very much. Yeah.
Same will
Sure,
go for anyone else who decides that they want something that is not in the freebie rules.
Yes. Thank you.
I will just provide that to you as appropriate.
For me, it will be Kyron, probably.
Right then, in that case, we will stick a pin in this for tonight. Thank you very much indeed, Fishy.
Yep. Thank you, Fishy.
Taking us through that
Yes.
and allowing us to create one of the weirdest
Yeah.
ships I have ever encountered, and I'm so looking forward to playing them.
Thank you all for creating something so interesting.
At least we've got lots of dangling threads that you can use
Oh,
to
yes.
tie into
Yeah,
plots.
yeah. This is great. So far, this is great for producing all of those hooks that are necessary.
That dangling threads that have a Harig ferret on the end of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh no, not another stunt.
Oh.
Sorry. Beastmaster 2,
haven't
if
seen
you
that film
haven't
in
seen
years.
it is Beastmaster 2, isn't it?
Beastmaster 2,
Yeah,
yes.
Beastmaster 2. I still maintain that was an editor's joke and it just somehow made it into the last,
Yeah,
the
they
final
just put
cut.
little speech bubbles on the animals at a couple of points in the game, in the film for no readily apparent reason, which
Yep.
includes another stunt from,
Yes.
from one of the
One of
ferrets.
the ferrets, yes. The fourth wall went.
Yeah.
Right, so yes, we will be back at this next week for the characters. So we've done the lines and veils, we've done the ship this week, and we'll be doing the characters next week. And in the meantime, where are we? What day is it? It is Thursday. So
Yeah, it's
this
Thursday all day.
weekend we have Deeper Dreams on hint_plays.
On Sunday, and we have the next episode of Star Trek Adventures on Saturday.
Yes, and Robinson was asking my advice on some of the story points.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
I have no idea what he's taken from that, but evil giggle. So that's the weekend. Monday I will be, but God help me, I will be going back to Calico.
Oh wow. Okay. Going back already.
Yep. Well, it took a while to get used to the controls. I will be attempting to shrink that huge cat. And using the riding dog to dig through a landslide, because that's a normal English sentence.
That's a perfectly normal English sentence.
Yeah, and then Thursday we'll be back on this channel for more Wildsea. Chrono, how is your streaming schedule this week?
So, yes, I will be on the Star Trek stream on Saturday over on Hint. Otherwise, I will be back. I will be on my channel next Wednesday for more Shadows over Loathing. Rest of next week will be up in the air. I may have to shift a few things around due to family stuff because next week is, week on Saturday is my birthday. So,
right, yes. Happy birthday in advance.
Thank you. So, I will need to rearrange things around family.
Yes, I may actually. It just occurred to me, having said, maybe we should leave it a week. I've just realised I've got family coming down the week after next, so yeah. That may get awkward. So, excellent. Molly, are you streaming at the moment?
Oh, it's on my to-do list, which means hopefully
Which means rest.
Yes.
Yes, hopefully so at some point before the end of the year. This year's volume is literally this thick.
Oh, good God.
We've seen the bound version now, and doing all of this. Yeah, work big. Now we're gearing up for the annual conference, and so it will stop at some point. There will be really.
Someday there will be lemon soap paper napkins.
The line has the line shall be drawn here, and no further
Yeah.
at some point.
At some point, yes.
Fish.
Oh, I have faith.
can we expect any Mapper Mondays?
Well, I certainly won't be able to do anything on Monday.
No.
It's a normal Monday. So that means that I won't get back from work until 7.
Yeah.
No, sorry, 6. It's a Monday.
It's a day.
I don't, unless I manage to stream something tomorrow, I don't think I'm going to be seen again until
Thursday.
Wildsea.
Okay. That's fair enough. So, thank you very much indeed, Fish. Thanks for introducing us to this.
Yes.
I'm loving it a lot.
Yeah, this game is this game is actually making quite an impression on me. It's these kinds of rules-like games are very much not my sort of thing, but I'm enjoying this so much that it is actually giving me slightly better feelings towards the other rules-like games.
I feel that
I might give them more credit than I have done in the past.
I feel that there is because when you had originally pitched it as rules light, I was thinking this does not quite sound like you, but it feels like, at least from the character creation or from the setup phase, there are enough questions and there is enough mechanic to give it a strong framework to push it in a direction that's okay. It's not entirely freeform.
It's rules like it's actually quite crunchy.
That's the description.
I like crunch. I like mechanics, but I also like crunch. So if I have to not have the mechanics, and then mechanically the game is extremely simple, then the crunch makes up for that, and the setting is just amazing. So it is inspiring me to finally actually pull my finger out and give Ironsworn a try. Ironsworn is a rules light game again, which the PDF version of which is free and can be played either traditionally GM'd or as a GM-less cooperative game, or indeed as a solo game. So
Okay.
give that a try. Try going through some solo play on that and see how it works at some point. And I've been meaning to do it for ages, but certain similarities with Wildsea mechanically are perhaps making it more likely that I will actually get around to doing it now.
Cool. Right. Okay, we'll call it there then. So, see you next Thursday for more of this. And thank you to Fish.
Yes.
Thank you, Fishy.
Thank you, Moliere, and thank you, Chrono.
Thank you.
Always welcome.
Yeah. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.